Welcome to the AI Native Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Awrabi, founder of Banyan Ventures. I believe AI native technology is the most transformative force of our lifetime. My obsession is two things: investing in AI native software and infrastructure companies, and two, understanding the details along the way. Because for me, that's where I actually learn. If that resonates with you, follow along and let's dig in.
The perpetual problem in tech is heat. There's no shortage of thermal problems. Diamond is the most thermally conductive material in nature by a factor of 5. Our material applied to the GPU reduces the temperature by 15 degrees Celsius. Thermal throttling is eliminated, and our servers are just humming.
Welcome to another episode of the AI Native Podcast. I'm thrilled to have Felix here, the founder and CEO of Akash Systems. And I'd like to pose a question right at the start of this podcast today. What if the real bottleneck to AGI isn't compute, it's cooling? What if the temperature in the data center is actually the main thing holding back AGI and the advancement of supreme human-driven intelligence from AI? And even bigger than that, what if I told you the solution to that isn't silicon, but it's diamond? So without further ado, I'd love for you, Felix, to introduce yourself, what Akash Systems does, and we can jump right in.
Sure. Good to be with you, Sam. It's nice to be here again. My name is Felix Ejeckam. I'm CEO and co-founder of Akash Systems. I started the company in 2017-ish with the intent of using material science to develop thermal solutions for a wide range of systems. We started out in space, applying our technologies in the space arena, and recently, in the last couple of years, directed our technologies into AI. We noticed that the same problems that we've addressed in space, where you've got heat and no air, space is essentially a perfect vacuum, we saw the same power densities in GPUs. And so we said, well, if we could address it in a tougher environment, such as we have in space, we ought to be able to address it in AI with GPUs that are increasingly hot, literally burning up servers out there. And that's what we did. We recently started to deploy these systems across data centers in the country, and we're very excited about it. We are a venture-backed company based in the Bay Area. Our lead investors are Khosla and Founders Fund. Kearney Jackson and Banyan are other investors as well. And we're very, very excited to be doing what we're doing.
Excellent. I wanted to talk to you about that more. And there's very few companies in the world, if any, doing diamond cooling.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's very few companies, if any, that have actually been able to put something in space as a outcome.
Yes.
And the data center as an outcome.
Yes.
So talk to us about that journey. Like, what was it like to start with you and Ty, your co-founder?
Sure.
Do the R&D for diamond cooling, get something as a production-ready product up in space, and then transition into the data center space. What was that like? Some of the highs, some of the lows. Just warm us up with understanding that a bit better.
Yeah. So the journey started with, first of all, my invention of diamond semiconductors, going back to an earlier company of mine where I invented an approach to grow diamond on semiconductors directly.
So wild.
That had never been done before. And the reason for doing that was because the perpetual problem in tech, deep tech in particular, is heat.
Right.
If you go into areas like RF electronics or CMOS, silicon electronics, even photonics, there's no shortage of thermal problems. Electrical engineers can design circuits to be as dense and as close as one atom. The thing that prevents them from doing that today is heat. Okay. Otherwise, you could literally have these atoms touch each other and never be concerned about any other ramification. But as soon as you do that, practically speaking, you run into thermal crosstalk. And so that was a big bottleneck that I observed early on. And I looked at the periodic table of elements, and you very quickly see that a crystal of carbon atoms, otherwise known as diamond, is the most thermally conductive material in nature, and certainly among materials that are man-made it is the most thermally conductive by far, by a factor of 5. The next best material is copper at around 400 watts per meter Kelvin. So thermal conductivity is the rate of movement of energy in a material.
Right.
The faster you can move energy, thermal energy in a material, the higher the thermal conductivity. And the smaller the thermal conductivity of a material, the slower it takes to move energy from one point to another in a piece of hardware. Copper is the most, has the highest of any material, and then you get to diamond.
Right.
So in a diamond crystal, you have atoms that are so tightly packed together that when one atom vibrates, i.e. it's thermally excited, because its proximity is within a few atoms of the next one, the next atom vibrates almost as instantly as this one vibrates. So that proximity leads to very quick thermal communication between the atoms in a tightly packed crystal, and that leads to a very high thermal conductance, and that's what you have in diamonds. The problem with diamond is that it's a very inert material. It doesn't like to react to anything. It doesn't stick to anything.
Right.
It's so tough that you need diamond to cut diamond.
Diamond, right.
Diamond is routinely used to cut other materials. And so therein lay the opportunity for us. We said, well, if we can get diamond, this very tough material that is extremely thermally conductive, and merge it with, atomically speaking, a semiconductor, which we love for other applications, you would have a godlike material. And that's essentially what we developed earlier on years ago with gallium nitride and diamond. And that led us to develop electronics for systems in space, where you have extreme temperatures, extreme conditions, radiation perpetually. You have vacuum, so you can't use air to move heat around. You need materials to touch each other if you're going to transfer heat from one to the other. When we were able to solve the problem there, and that led to a successful launch earlier this year, several satellites in orbit now spinning around the Earth with our radios, our satellite radios delivering data down at gigabit speeds. We said, well, if we can address it there, surely we can address it with a GPU used in AI. The power densities in a typical AI GPU are significantly, many times, in some cases, an order less than what you have in space with our RF power amplifiers.
Right.
And so with that confidence, we were inspired to try and address the thermal problem, thermal bottleneck in a server system. You see the tweets every day from folks in the industry talking about the thermal bottlenecks that are choking growth in these servers. And you talk to any thermal engineer, and no one is surprised by it. It is a thermal bottleneck, and unless you address heat, you're always going to be choked by that. And for us, our perspective about this, which is shockingly but not surprisingly unique in tech in general, we chose to address the problem by going to the source of the heat, going into the semiconductor.
Sure.
And so that's what we do here. We try and get to the source of the heat as close as we can practically get to. We don't make GPUs, but who knows, maybe we will someday. But that is the ultimate source of the heat. And if you can get there as close as you can to the transistor, you unlock the thermal ceiling and can get to the intrinsic electrical performance of the device. Generally speaking, the thermal ceiling is a lot lower than the electrical ceiling. So you punch through the thermal ceiling, you get to the true electrical ceiling of that transistor, and that leads to extreme performance. And we're starting to see that with the servers that we're assembling today. We get GPUs from both NVIDIA and AMD. We apply our diamond technology to both of those, and we see that we're able to mitigate thermal effects. Thermal throttling is a lot less, in some cases totally eliminated, and we can see that the chip is getting to its true potential of performance.
Right.
And that leads to a better experience for anyone who is interested in AGI.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Akash is a significant portfolio company for us. We've invested heavily. We're really grateful.
And we're very grateful as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
over the
Yeah.
time that we've gotten to know each other. And
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in one of our early discussions talking about, hey, it could be thousands of times harder to cool in space just due to those complexities than in the data center.
Yeah.
And it just crossed my mind. But as we sit here today, you're probably one of the only, if not the only, company that has a cooling solution that works in space and in the data center. I mean, that's,
Yes.
I've never seen a company have a space product and a data center product, ready to go and being used and working. I mean, do you plan to scale both product lines in parallel? What's it like being running a company as a CEO with a space product and a data center product? What's that like
Well,
for you?
so for us, under the hood, it's the same material science.
Right.
So it's the same transistors that are used in your iPhone or in a server or in a space satellite or in a car EV. Transistors are transistors. It's up to the systems engineer to reconfigure these transistors and adapt them to a different environment. We do intend to devote most of our resources to the AI market focus of our business. The demand there is overwhelmingly large compared to anything we've seen in space. The space business has for us been a tech lead for us. It gives us technologies that we use then for AI.
Right.
Space is you might say a lead technology. How should I say, like a pathfinder, if you will.
It's R&D.
It's R&D,
Right.
for
Straight up.
AI.
I mean, you're going in and you're doing something nearly impossible, and
Exactly.
it works. And the degree of difficulty in the data center is lower.
Yeah.
But you've figured out a lot of complex challenges.
Correct.
In space, and that's applicable to then roll in
Absolutely.
to the data center.
And all of this is in material science, you address the same problems. I will give credit to, in the early days, we got a lot of funding from the government, from
Right.
the Department of Defense, DARPA. They helped fund the original research that went into the technology. And so now in AI, it's largely just scaling, implementation, scaling.
Right.
It looks like it's quick and dirty and fast, but actually it's resting on years, decades of innovation and development that came before.
Right.
In a way, partners, customers, investors who come in now are benefiting enormously because we're going through this inflection point that is resting on all of that success in R&D.
Right. And I think something that the masses probably would be so surprised at, and it's not very well understood. CoreWeave recently went public.
Mm-hmm.
They IPO'd at around $30, $40 a share. They kind of staggered a bit. And then some really nice press came out about the OpenAI partnership. That was a $4 billion super computer they're developing in, I think, a few locations.
Yeah.
And we're an investor in another company called Ori. Ori's doing significant supercomputer deployments of mostly NVIDIA GPUs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right now in our portfolio, we have 6 physical infrastructure products. And, something that's not understood, and would love to hear your take on it, is just how much AI infrastructure is a game of financing, and debt and equity financing vehicles being really important.
Mm-hmm.
And how, as you scale these products, are someone has to foot the bill of that infrastructure. And would just love to hear from you, like, having been a founder that did significant R&D first on the space front, now you're in the data center game, you're about a year into that. What advice would you give other founders, or what insights do you have there? Because I find it to be, what the CoreWeave founders did incredibly well is they were energy traders. They understood Wall Street. They weren't tech guys, surprisingly to many people. They were doing crypto mining initially, but they understood how to get debt financing and do massive scale deployments, which is really hard. And I think there's something to learn from that, seeing how they're doing in the public markets, and they're taking market share away from the hyperscalers at pretty decent clip at this point.
Yeah, I think that the key there, and I think it's true for us and for really any other hardware or deep tech company, is creativity.
Yep.
You have to be extremely creative in looking for funding from all of the stakeholders whose business and success is affected by your tech. So you go to your customers, okay, if you're not interested in prepaying, well, what would it take for me to get you to a place where you can help us out a little bit?
That down
Okay?
payment.
Exactly.
Because this could be a 40, 50, $200 million or
Or could we
greater contract.
pay you a little bit later?
Right.
Could you maybe some financing? Could you
Right.
invest? We'll give you equity, or maybe it's debt or something like that. You go to your suppliers. They would love for you to be successful in buying your products. And maybe if you can get the customer to put down the order, that might convince your suppliers to finance your work a little bit more. You go to others in the ecosystem of your business who are affected by your work. I think the terms of your agreements with your customers is another lever. There are some knobs in there that you can tweak on. You go to lenders and see if they could be swayed by the kinds of agreements that you have with your customers. And I think that was something that CoreWeave was very good at optimizing.
They wrote the playbook.
Absolutely.
I mean, because one of the barriers before CoreWeave, why there wasn't really a big cloud, was just the financing component.
Right.
People didn't have a debt sheet, a balance
Right.
sheet to
Right.
bankroll that
Right.
significant of deployments, and they really were the pioneers on the debt financing ecosystem.
Correct.
One of the LPs in Banyan's fund is doing about $1 billion a year in debt financing, and they started out with other types of equipment that they've built out from
Yeah.
the 70s. Like if you go to Target, there's checkout machines.
Yeah.
So they financed things they understood,
Yeah.
but CoreWeave really pioneered GPU specific
Yeah.
debt financing. I mean, there was CPU financing before
Yeah,
that, but at
yeah.
a much different scale.
And it forces the company to focus on very high quality customer deals.
Customer fidelity,
Yes,
right?
the quality of the customer is so
The
important.
use cases,
Yes.
are they going to
Yes.
succeed? That's where the financer spends a
Because
lot
the
of
lenders
time.
are looking at that, right? They don't know the tech, but if they see that, okay, you're working with this tier one customer whose credit is quadruple A,
That's your collateral and
that's
the
it.
hardware.
Exactly.
And then your
Exactly.
confidence, you could sell it to the next guy
That's right.
if Akash or whoever was taking that on
That's
wasn't
right.
successful.
I think that for hardware companies, if what you're trying to do is still a fair bit of development, then I think you have to go to more early stage, seed stage investors, even government funding. In the early years of our company, in my prior company, when we were still developing the underlying material, we got a lot of funding from the Department of Defense, the Navy. There's all sorts of
You have to be
SBIRs.
creative and scrappy
Yeah,
and
yeah.
fit
So-
those use cases of the research at
Correct.
that time with your roadmap.
Correct. But then once you get you cross the Rubicon of development, and then you're in the scale up world, then you go to the commercial ecosystem, and you start to leverage those. I think venture financing can be very helpful. There's some very good venture investors out there who can take a risk, as long as they see that the use case, the business case is there. That's
The
solid.
multiplier on their investment. How
right.
they have to see that and feel conviction.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So those are the things I would say you areas you look for financing of a hardware business, one that's also in deep tech such as we are, and yeah.
Yeah. So I have to ask, Sam Altman recently said, our GPUs are melting.
Yeah.
Help us. So if OpenAI was using Akash today,
Yeah.
what would change for them?
I think it pushes out that point of the point where they have to sort of throw their hands up in the air, because we would be pulling the heat out from the source of the chip. It all depends on how close to the kimono we get. If you're giving us access to the guts of the chip, then we can really bring down that temperature a great deal. If we're further away, that temperature reduction is less.
Are we talking like 10 degrees, 15
We
degrees?
right now average around 15 degrees Celsius reductions.
Wow.
We can do a lot more if we have
That's still
more
15
access.
degrees, though.
It's 15 degrees, and it's enough to. We see a clear change in the thermal throttling between a chip that has no diamond and one that has diamond.
And define thermal
Throttling
for
so
the
thermal
layman
throttling,
out there.
sure. So what happens in a GPU is that as it's humming along and the operating system, i.e. the CPU, which is adjacent to the GPU, is sending AI workloads to that GPU, there will come a point in time. So as it's sending workloads, the GPU temperature starts to inch up, from a nominal low temperature or room temperature, eventually getting up to 75, 80 degrees Celsius, even 85, 87 degrees. And there's a tipping point right around 85, 87, where NVIDIA, if it's an NVIDIA GPU, will say, all right, guys,
we're throttling.
Where you have to stop whatever the hell you're doing.
And that's an auto setting, right? You can't even override that because of many different reasons.
It's in the code. And so once that temperature gets to 87, then the CPU will say, we're going to slow down or stop putting work on the GPU.
Yep.
And it sort of throttles. It'll dip down momentarily, go back up, dip down, go back up, off, on, off, on. There's a duty cycle applied to it. It doesn't go all the way off unless the temperature is in a runaway situation, but essentially it's reducing the work of the server.
Yep.
So if you're on the other side and you are carrying out some task or you're using ChatGPT, you will see a slowdown in the response. It will take a noticeable amount of time to answer a complex question or even a simple question.
That's right.
Depending on what has been done in that GPU before you came along with your question. So with that throttling, that up and down in modulating work sent to the GPU with the intent of driving down the temperature, that's called thermal throttling, and it can take it can go on for a couple days where the GPU is at a suboptimal level, in order to artificially keep temperature low. And that's also for the life and safety of the GPU. If you let the GPU temperature get into the 90s, you're cutting short the lifetime of that GPU. The rule of thumb, there's a concept, a principle called the Arrhenius law in material science and device physics that says for every 10 degrees Celsius that you reduce the temperature of a chip, you're doubling its lifetime. Or said differently, every time you increase the temperature of a chip,
you're shortening it. You're
50% exactly. And so if you keep operations up at 90, 95, 100, you are reducing the operating life of that server, and potentially you may go into a situation where you're going to kill the chip. You open it, you look at it, you'll start smelling smoke, essentially. And so that's the intent. Thermal throttling is a mechanism to manage the life and safety of the server. We see that because our material applied to the GPU reduces the temperature by 15 degrees Celsius, that thermal throttling is eliminated. We have done tests in the lab where we heat up the room to 140 degrees and Fahrenheit, and we're looking to see, okay, how's it going to hold up? And we look at the GPUs without diamond, and it is throttling, like it's trying to stay healthy, and our servers are just humming. The GPUs at 100% flat, no problem, and that's the power of a very good thermally managed solution such as diamond cooling applied to a very hot heat source like a GPU. And so to your question, yes, if this is applied to any sort of OpenAI or what have you type of very intensive system, demanding code, there's no doubt that we from what we see, it would have a very good effect for the benefit of the user or the operator of that server or GPU.
Yep, I agree. And I think my perspective on this, having gotten to know you and having been in this field quite a while and seeing different scenarios, is that this is a breakthrough technology. This is the new normal of cooling. I think it's a new standard. It's still new. There's education going into it. But if you're releasing, in OpenAI's case, a new image or video generation model, all of a sudden your business has the largest influx of net new user growth, which I believe was the situation where this happened. Instead of onboarding new users, collecting new subscription revenue, and expanding your market ownership, you're literally telling new users, sorry, we can't sign you up. We're adding you to a wait list. And then to your point around inference speed, your existing users are getting a slow application experience. So they're sitting around trying to use the model, and then you can't charge them as much if it's a pay per use type model. And and then there's all these other things, like as a company, if OpenAI or others are, they're obviously investing heavily into this infrastructure. If they're the owners of the infrastructure and their utilization rate's too high and they're clocking too much stress on these GPUs, if they're owning these GPUs 4 years or 5 years for 7 or 8, if you take great care of them, your capex is just going to be so much greater.
Correct.
And then on the data center side, there's the cost of cooling these. Like it's either an air conditioner or liquid cooling or some combination. And so I think there's just so many benefits to diamond cooling, and it's just really exciting to me.
It is. I mean, I think that for the operator who is doing AI, the experience that their customers will have is noticeably different. If they have a large collection of these servers that's growing, such as OpenAI or really any of the others, maybe not so well known, they're spending a lot on CapEx and OpEx. So your cost of cooling are becoming extreme.
Right.
And
cost of power is going up.
Cost of power.
Cost of securing power is harder.
Cost of securing power is higher. With the OpEx, I don't know if you've ever seen these chillers. They are building size. These things and there's increasingly more demand for liquid cooling, but what we hear from a lot of companies actually is a desire to not have to use liquid cooling because the cost of infrastructure to be set up in the data center is so high.
Right.
So we're offering them that outlet. We're saying, okay, try this. I mean, certainly we do deploy Diamond with liquid cooling, but far more customers prefer to just use Diamond cooling alone and not have to invest in chillers. But I love the points you're making about some of the benefits downstream. You extend the life of the server because the temperature nominally is lower. Okay, you may not keep the servers for 9 years. You may only keep it for 3 years, but your depreciation is more gentle. You're not losing as much money every year. So we actually add money to the P&L.
So your lifetime
Oftentimes
value
the
of that
customer
server,
is the CFO that we're talking to.
Yep,
they
that's
love
right.
the fact that we're adding profits to their books, and that's a very, very real here and now thing. You mentioned the cost of OpEx and cooling. 40% of cooling costs in a data center is related to energy,
right.
To cooling the GPUs. So we're reducing that cost because the data centers can operate warmer.
Yes, like 15 degrees cooler running servers. What's that roughly translate to on cooling costs?
Cooling costs, we can take it down from 40% to 20%. We can reduce it by a half because you don't have to bring the temperature of the ambient in the data center to be as cold.
Wow.
You can let the ambient run warmer.
So 50% less power going.
We see that in space. We see that even with sort of airplane equipment. If you can let the ambient be warmer, because the chip is more resilient to the higher temperature, that saves a ton of money on the cooling cost of the system.
Right.
That's exactly what you have in a data center.
Right.
It's no different. So that's a great benefit. And then, of course, you have the fact that because these things are not doing as much thermal throttling, there's more revenue for the GPU operator.
Right.
Okay, they can actually, when a GPU operator sells, when cloud services sell X dollars for 1 hour, it's not 1 true hours because there's throttling in there. Whereas we could say, hey, with our systems, you get 1 true hour of performance of operation.
Right.
We're actually going to be setting up in the next few weeks some test cases in a data center in the Bay Area where we set up servers, racks with and without diamonds, and customers can come and see what
for themselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So we're going to do those proof of concepts for our customers to come and take a look and see an operation live,
right.
what a rack with diamond looks like with and without, and judge for themselves the benefits for their setup.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because, of these investments in infrastructure in our portfolio, that's very common. A well-known company, Fortune 500, will buy maybe one rack and put it in their data center, or if you can co-locate or manage that, and they'll try it out. And if that goes well, then you've earned that trust. And now you could be in the hundreds of millions of demand from them, signed, booked up revenue.
Exactly.
So it's very exciting.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
Question for you. So, and I've loved following your journey. I've learned a lot from you, and I'd love to depart that knowledge back to the community.
Sure.
So when you've thought about your business models, like we have our cloud business model, which has more of a ownership to the reoccurring revenue potentially of that server that you put the diamond cooling in, versus one-off delivery where you put in the diamond cooling technology and then you sell it to a neo cloud or a hyperscaler or maybe a foundational model company or a bank. So how are you guys thinking about that? How have you evolved your thinking, and what do you think the future looks like for infrastructure chip companies, or in your case, cooling technology companies? Do you think you'll ingratiate into more of a cloud business, or do you think it's going to be more of like what we're used to with NVIDIA? It's one-off, it's not reoccurring by nature. They build it, ship it, sell it, and then the next person takes on that and builds a cloud out of it and brings the demand and to the server.
So over the next few years, the overwhelming demand in our business and our revenue, certainly our revenue forecast, will be from folks who want to buy racks.
That's
racks at a time. That will dominate our business. We do have test cases where we set up a small test cloud to show our server customers what their business could look like.
Sure.
I mean, in some ways, NVIDIA does the same thing. They set up clusters of server systems using their chips. Because whenever you serve a customer, you have to always get 1 or 2 steps ahead of your customer and solve their problem before they get there.
Right.
NVIDIA does that so well, and we have to do the same thing. We have to set up a rack or a small cluster to show customers the effects of our technology to their business. And that's the intent of that. We don't want to compete with the business of our customers. We're very sensitive and mindful about that. And so we plan to continue to sell boxes of servers.
Makes sense.
Our customers are increasingly buying these at a recurring level. They're ordering, okay, we're going to get this box, this quantity this year. Next year it's going to be 50% more, and so on. So that's what we see with our customers, and we think that's
the trend.
That's a trend. That's terrific. Everyone's growing. The demand is certainly far outpacing the existing installed base of capacity to deliver on that alone. Just to make that happen without tripping, and you will be extremely successful. Along the way, setting up small test cases, whether it's HFT, and we have a partner that we're doing an HFT system demo with them, or a cloud SP doing a small test setup with them. So we'll have those, but the overwhelming thrust of our business will be selling servers, making them
an NVIDIA model.
Exactly.
Best in class, cutting edge, get it done, have great reliability there.
Yeah.
And then you rinse your hands and repeat.
Correct.
On an annual basis.
We might laterally move to, I should say not move, but add other GPUs. There are a few other companies out there that are developing innovative GPUs
Sure.
that have. I mean, if you're alive, then you have a heat problem, and so you can't get away from the laws of physics. So we will continue to support any and other GPUs that come along.
Even the new wave of inference chip providers,
Yeah.
a few $1 billion
Yeah.
of funding has gone into, this, we're shareholders in two of the leading ones.
Yeah.
And I think there's interest there to
Yeah.
collaborate.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking to Recogni
Yeah,
yesterday,
exactly.
and so what they're doing is incredibly bold and innovative. And,
Logarithmic math, using math to beat NVIDIA 3-4x
Right.
year in and out.
And they will have a heat problem, and as they already do, and we will be right there, ready and willing to help them. We thrive when we're allowed to do a deep collaboration. So we don't do retrofit services. We don't open up a random server and try to do what we do.
Just jump in.
We
right?
need to get closer with the engineers so we can get access to the true source of the heat.
Right. I want shifting gears because I find this question fascinating, so I'm hoping others do. But you have Khosla on the cap table, Founders Fund, some of the best well-known investors in the world.
Yeah.
But you've also met a lot of great investors that didn't invest.
Sure.
And when we were willing, true and true to invest and wouldn't change a thing. So what do you think VCs get wrong when they're looking at a cooling technology infrastructure? Like when you hear a question, you're like, oh, they already don't get it, or they're getting it wrong, or what's the theme there? Because it seems to be a camp that just gets it. They're on board. They're ready for this innovation cycle. There's a camp who they find all these reasons not to. And, I'm just curious, like,
I think
what's that been like?
I think that when you get to the core of an individual's DNA, everyone crosses the Rubicon of tech at different points in time.
Right.
I got into the iPhone thing before my wife by 4 years. She was really into her BlackBerry and wasn't going to let go of it for many.
I did like that little scroll button.
She loved the scroll button. She loved the keyboard.
Felt good.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't until the iPhone. Well, I'm not going to give it away, but
right.
So I think that some people like to see that. Famously, I remember Intel, Motorola, years ago. The Motorola folks said that they weren't quite ready to jump into the cell phone business because they wanted to see that the phone would truly change the world.
Right.
And they thought it was too early to jump in. And that's one of the reasons Intel led the way early on.
So you think that that's with these VC firms?
I think
with mega funds raised 400, 500, 600 million.
Khosla is he's an early.
He's just fearless.
He's absolutely. He's got a spine, a backbone,
and it's almost like the crazier the idea, the more unlikely, the more he's like, "Fuck it, let's do it."
Right.
Yeah.
But it is based on. I mean, he does look for the fundamental.
The promise
science.
of the individuals, the background, the notoriety they've already produced in their life,
and the underlying technology as well. I think that's
like
important.
how sound is it if it works?
Yeah.
How real is that to the world?
And not every investor I see out there is prepared to go that early. They want a few more proof points. So they watch you, track you, and then maybe a year later they jump in.
Right.
Others will watch, and then there are people. There's a couple of investors that told me, once you're a unicorn, which hopefully very soon, we'll throw everything at you.
Right.
They're staying close to us, and there are people who've come in now who were watching us 2 years ago, and they said, okay, all right, we're in.
Right.
So I think that.
There's just a Rubicon threshold on innovation.
There is a spread of different, appetite, let's say risk appetite levels that people have. And you just have to meet them where they will meet you, work with them. And
build
when they
trust,
get there, they get
share
you.
updates.
Yeah.
And take them on that journey as much as you can.
Yeah. I don't know, your question, is there something they get wrong? I think there is a reputation maybe that hardware companies, they take a lot of capital.
Which fair enough. I don't know if we'll have time. I have research on that.
Yeah.
That narrative comes from a place of data.
Yeah.
I think at large.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah, so I think that informs some of the misperceptions
I see.
about
Where
you
we're
know,
at today.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
yeah. Because I think the stat was, thinking machines starting in 1983 till today, about 10 different AI infrastructure startups. We're talking about $2.83 billion in investment. And this is mostly for um, training or inference hardware. So
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily cooling, but at large, besides Grok and Habana was acquired by Intel for $2 billion.
Mm-hmm.
But then later on, that acquisition didn't actually materialize into revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So history shows besides Grok and Habana hasn't really been promising
Mm-hmm.
returns for investors in this
Mm-hmm.
space. And
Mm-hmm.
we won't get into all that, but it sounds like what I'm sensing is we're at a different part of the innovation cycle.
Yes.
You've built something incredibly unique, and it's not even in this group of companies.
No.
But yet they get confused,
Yeah.
and that's just
There's
where
a
it's
haze
at.
of information out there people
Right.
see, and it takes a while for them to realize, okay, you're not that, you're this.
But I've even heard investors say, "You're a materials company.
Yeah.
Why don't you
Yeah.
just license this materials
Right.
manufacturing
Right.
capabilities
Right.
and just that's it?"
Yeah. And I always have to educate them that when you invent a new platform, you have to see the value proposition all the way through to the end user. You can't give an industry a homework.
Right.
Okay, we've made a powertrain that's incredibly efficient and effective. Here, BMW, VW, go
The
figure it
evidence
out.
of this, there's 20 different distinct suppliers or manufacturers involved in just creating the latest generation of NVIDIA.
Yeah.
They're not just saying, here you go, do it yourself.
Right.
No, they have the talent, the
Right.
expertise, the
Yeah.
oversight,
Yeah.
the secret sauce
Yeah.
that makes sure that quality bar is maintained year in and year out
Correct.
while
Correct.
innovating.
Correct.
It's not just here you go.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think that it would be futile if we sold a material science thing,
Right.
a piece of wafer to our customers. They wouldn't adopt it. They would take forever. They would screw it up.
Those
They would
teams
screw it
internally
up.
wouldn't know how to do that.
No,
There's no way unless you were there.
You're giving
and
them
Ty
like
were
a
there,
science
your team.
project.
Yeah,
you have to see it all the way through. And that's what leads to companies like us saying, all right, we'll make the whole server. Screw it.
Right.
We'll make the whole
Just send
server.
it to us.
Yeah.
Right.
And in fact, we'll do a little cloud demo so you can see
the final product.
Right.
And we'll tell you about the sausage making.
Exactly.
But no, this is what you'll get.
Right.
But here's what we need from you.
Right.
Right.
And I think also there is a business value to us in trying to deliver something where everyone wins. So not only does the end user get the benefit of this faster inference work, but also the folks in the food chain, including us, get better economics.
Right.
Than if we just went to someone
handing it off.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So there is, we'll have a say, we'll have a seat at the table and decide, okay, everyone gets a fair shake at the value created. You get a 20% booster to your economics. You get 20%. You get 20%. Everybody gets something.
Right.
And then it's a win-win-win all around. And that's
It's
because
sustainable.
It's sustainable
because you probably couldn't keep that innovation cycle going
Right.
at that R&D pace you're driving without
Right.
doing it this way.
Correct.
And then customers would not benefit
Right.
because of that. And the
Yeah.
benefits of the saving on the power cost
Yeah.
and increasing the lifetime value of the GPU, all those things would be diminished.
Correct.
So this is why it has to happen this way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I could keep going all day. I have so many other questions, but I know we're wrapping up. So
Yes.
thank you, Felix, so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
Really
having me. Appreciate it, Sam.
Awesome.
All right.